Hello, folks. My name is Jerry B. from Pride and Glory Travel Cruise Planner, and I'm here to tell you about our Where To Next 2026 vacation calendar. Starting off with May 2nd on Freedom of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, going out for 5 days. Then we're doing our land and air vacation. You asked for it. Here we're going out to Vegas in 6 days over in Hawaii and just having a blast. And this kicks off on June 17th. Then another one you asked for, we head back out to Alaska again on July 26th on the beautiful ship Celebrity Edge. Then in October, another trip you asked for. We headed over to Aruba and Carousel. This is going out October 17th on Allure of the Seas. And then our biggest trip of the year is on Allure of the Seas, November 29th, which is our hog biker cruise. You don't need to be a hog or biker to attend. Just come have some fun. We having our leather and lace karaoke party. We having a pool get together. And you got entertainment by me, Jerry B, and my younger brother, Timmy B, doing the show for you guys. So grab your pencil and paper, call Jerry at 920-265-8143, or Pam at 401-368-3275, or John 703-346-8352. And as always, see you at sea.
Well, hey there, folks, and happy St. Patrick's Day. I want to welcome you guys to another great episode of Respect the Talk. We got some crazy things going on. I tell you, it's just going to be. We just got a great, fun show going on. It's going to be a blast. So let me tell you what's getting ready to happen here, real quick here. Um, anyway, but my nephew one is not going to be here. So because he got caught up in Chicago, so he's going to be tied down there, taking care of his family, doing some other stuff. Plus, the weather there was like, oh God, so he got caught up in that. But without that being said, since he's not going to be here, before we get started, I want you guys to do me a huge, huge, huge favor. I hope you like our background because now not just our background, but our new studio and everything. Because now, if you want to come have a seat on our couch back here and sit in and enjoy the show, feel free to do so. If you just want to watch me do the show, or if you want to be a part of the show, come in, sit in, and jump in on the couch here with us and have some fun with us. So anyway, before we get started, Bo, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with somebody who appreciates real conversation. And as always, drop your thoughts in the comments because we want to hear from you. We think about what you want to talk about. We're here for you guys, not just for us. We're here for all of you folks here. So please, please, please drop us a topic in there. I'll read them on online while we're here. You should be able to drop right in our chat box. So anyway, on this show, we're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to have honest conversations, ask real questions, and sometimes challenge the narratives we hear every day. So if you're ready for another real conversation, folks, let's get into it. So, all right. So, on today's episode, we got a mix of history, politics, and current events. We're going to start things off with a little history lesson about St. Patrick's Day because most people celebrate it every year but don't really know where the holiday came from. We'll talk about who St. Patrick actually was, how the shamrock became a symbol of Ireland, and why people started wearing green. Then we're off going to get into a bigger conversation about what's happening right now in the United States and Iran, including the question a lot of people are asking: how can a war be declared a victory on day one? We also talk about the real cost of war because beyond politics and headlines, there are always real people affected by these decisions. So, after that, we're going to share some personal reflections about politics, voters, and accountability. And then we'll wrap things up, folks, because it is St. Patrick's Day. You know you want to get to that corned beef and cabbage. And we're going to wrap it up with a quick history lesson about Iran and Israel, because understanding the history of the region helps explain why these conflicts are never simple. So, we've got a lot to get into today, folks, so let's talk about it.
Welcome to Respect the Talk with Jerry B.
Respect the talk. Respect the talk. Respect the talk.
Okay, we're back here, folks. Again, I tell you, it's got, like I said, got a great show. My nephew's not going to be here, so it's okay. You guys drop me a line and get involved in the conversation today. Love to hear from you, um, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So anyway, but we're going to also talk about what we're doing today. Like I said, the conversations I told you we're going to have now, which is start off with why facts, the real origin of St. Patrick's Day. So if you got your green beer ready, I hope you do. You got your green beer ready? I got mine. I'm just teasing. There's no beer in here. This is all about. This is just basically some punch and nothing in it, just punch. So anyway, let's talk about it though. Since this episode is airing around March 17th, I thought it would be interesting to talk about where St. Patrick's Day actually comes from. Okay. So most people think of St. Patrick's Day as a day to wear green, go to parades, and maybe have a drink. But the origin of the holiday is actually religious. I don't know if you folks knew that. I have an Irish friend of mine that is, I know he is deeply religious, so I know that's what it's all about. And I've known that for a while, even though we all try to be Irish on this day. So here's the history though. St. Patrick's Day honors St. Patrick, the missionary who helped spread Christianity throughout Ireland during the 5th century. What a lot of people don't realize is that St. Patrick was not actually Irish. Patrick was born in Roman Britain, and when he was about 17 years old, he was kidnapped by Irish raiders and taken to Ireland as a slave. He spent about 6 years in Ireland working as a shepherd before eventually escaping and returning home. Later in life, he said he had a religious calling to go back to Ireland as a missionary. And that's when he began spreading Christianity across the island. Now, March 17th is believed to be the date St. Patrick's death. Sometime around the year 461, I was born around that time, but that's okay. And that date eventually became a religious feast day in Ireland. Over time, the day became a celebration not just of St. Patrick, but of Irish culture and heritage around the world. Now, we're going to talk about something else, folks. I hope you got your drink because this is a lot of information about St. Patrick's Day. And we're going to talk about the shamrock and the Irish symbolism. Okay, because one of the most famous symbols connected to St. Patrick is the shamrock. People wear it around their neck, they wear it on clothing. That's where you see it all over. Heck, I got socks on right now that's got shamrocks on it. According to Irish legend, St. Patrick used the three leaves of the shamrock to explain the Christian concept of the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Because of that story, the shamrock became a symbol of Irish identity and a symbol tied to St. Patrick's Day celebrations. Why people wear green? Now let's talk about the green clothing because that part of the tradition is actually interesting, very interesting. Originally, the color most associated with St. Patrick was blue, whether you believe it or not green. But over time, green became connected with Ireland because of the country's nickname, the Emerald Island, which comes from its lush green landscape. And if you know anything about Ireland, it is just full of just greenery, just beautiful. So it was just so green also became associated with the Irish nationalism in the 1700s, especially during movements that pushed for Irish independence. By the 19th century, wearing green on St. Patrick's Day became a way for Irish people to show pride in their culture and identity. There's also a fun legend that says wearing green makes you invisible to leprechauns. Go figure that. And I'm sure you've seen some of the, well, I know I have because I watched those sci-fi movies, the Leprechaun. Leprechaun 1, 2, 3. I don't know how many of those movies they got. They even got Leprechaun in the Hood movie out, which is crazy. Anyway, the story goes that leprechauns like to pinch anyone they can see. So people started wearing green so the leprechauns couldn't spot them. Whether people believe that story or not, the tradition stuck, and now wearing green is one of the most recognized parts of the holidays. Now, how America changed the holidays? Another interesting part of the story is that the huge parades we see today didn't actually start in Ireland. The first large St. Patrick's Day parades were organized by Irish immigrants in the United States, especially in cities like New York and Boston. Irish immigrants used the holiday as a way to celebrate their culture and show pride in their heritage. Eventually, those celebrations became so popular that Ireland itself started adopting the larger festival style celebration. Now, today's St. Patrick's Day is celebrated all over the world, but the biggest parades and parties still happen in guess what? United States. So I mean, now you got a little history about Ireland. Today is going to be about history, tons of history. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. While my nephew is here, not here, I figured, well, this is a good time to go through the history because it is St. Patrick's Day. And now you guys got to understand what the shamrock is all about. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So, I mean, it's not just a thing to hang around your neck. It's just as like that cross that we all wear. It has a lot of meaning. And the green and everything else, it has a lot of meaning. St. Patrick's Day, because St. Patrick was a Christian, and his goal was to spread Christianity all over the world. And so that's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did. And that's how this all transpired. So I hope you folks enjoyed that little bit of knowledge there, you know, because it's really it's especially on St. Patrick's Day has a lot of meaning for the day. Now let's move on to segment 2, the Iran War. Did we already win? Okay. Now I'm trying to understand something here, folks. We start a war with Iran, and then almost immediately we hear leaders on television say we already won. That confuses me because if we already won the war on day one, then why are we asking other countries to get involved after that? If the mission was already accomplished, there shouldn't be a need for more countries, more troops, or more escalation because we won. Wars are not something you declare victory over on social media after the first strike. History has shown us that conflicts in the Middle East rarely end quickly and almost always turn into long, complicated situations. What I want to know is whether the long term consequences of this war were really thought through before it started. Because once the first shot is fired, things start moving fast and it becomes very hard to control what happens. The Middle East, and I've always said this about this, people want to say, well, the past presidents were weak, and that's why they didn't do it. And I'm glad we got a strong president to do it. No, they weren't weak. They were very, very smart because they know you cannot bog yourself down in the Middle East. This war in the Middle East, which we're going to talk about the history of this war in a little while. But they've been fighting for many years, many years. Okay, I mean, Iran itself is 2,000 some odd years old when the United States is only 250 years old. I mean, this is not, you cannot beat an ideology of 2,000 years to try to change them into from a country from 250 years old. I mean, we got to stop this nonsense. Yes, the good guy was. Don't get me wrong. Don't let's stop. Okay, let's stop first. Yes, the Ayatollah was a bad person. He was a horrible man. We're going to get into the history about this in a minute because people, you hear this on the news all the time. For 47 years, for 47 years, for 47 years, they've been killing us and attacking us and everything. This did not start 47 years ago. And like I said, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, folks. But the real cost of war, when politics talk about war, they usually talk about strategy, power, and victory. What they don't talk about enough is the real cost of war, which is measured in human lives. And this is what always bothers me because folks, a lot of you folks know me out there. I'm not trying to tout my Christianity, but I am definitely about human lives. I don't want to see nobody die if it's unnecessary. You know, every conflict means America service members are put in harm's way. It also means innocent civilians in the regions are caught in the middle of violence they had no role in creating. Yeah, I was talking to somebody a while this weekend, and they said, well, they signed up and they signed up in the service, and they know that's a chance of going to war. Well, yeah, there's a chance, but it ain't like they want to go to war. Nobody wants to go to war. They signed up because they thought it'd help the country have a better life. They can get a better life. They can get some knowledge. Some people sign up because they need to make a man out of them. But most of them signed up because they were trying to get a better life. Yes, they want to protect the country. Absolutely. They want to protect the United States of America for a war that needs to be fought. And I mean, needs to be fought for a war that people were attacking us. Okay. It also means innocent civilians in the region are caught in the middle of violence they had no role in creating. People are dying over there, getting blown to pieces. Wars are easily to start with speeches and press conferences ending them in completely different story. Before any country goes to war, the question we should always ask is simple. What does the end actually look like? What does the end actually look like? Because to sit there and say so cavalierly like, well, the service men just died because, but that's the casualty. That's what war's all about. People gonna die. Yeah, well, it's easy to say that if you're standing on the golf course playing 18 holes. It doesn't affect you at all. And that's what I've always said that if you're gonna send somebody else's kids in the war, we should make sure we send your family members, whether it be your grandson, your great grandson, or whatever, on that front line to fight. I know, hey, England did. Think about it, folks. England did. They put their two kids in a war in a service, and they made them pilots. If you're going to put your family out there, put them out there. If you're going to put somebody else's kids out there, put yours out there first. But don't sit here on TV and so cavalierly saying, well, there's a cost of war, and we needed to do this, and we blah, blah, blah. And then you're lying to everybody, telling somebody we needed to do. We did not need to do this. Here's something that happened today, folks. We didn't get a chance to put it in our story today, but here's something that happened today. The gentleman, there's a gentleman today who was in charge of the foreign affairs and international policies, retired that Trump brought into office. He retired today. He didn't retire. He quit. He just quit because him himself said today, and they are fuming in Washington right now, that this war was not imminent. It was a nonsense war. There was not a threat to us. And that's what Trump and all his minions were trying to sell us, that they were getting ready to bomb us. They were getting ready to bomb it. They weren't getting ready to bomb anybody. They weren't getting ready to do nothing. Israel dragged us into this war, and now we're stuck. It's sad. It is just sad. My political awakening, I had a moment recently where I had to step back and rethink how I looked at American politics, folks. No, seriously, this is seriously. And honestly, I realized I owed an apology to a lot of my Republican friends. Republicans vote the way Republicans are expected to vote, just like Democrats vote the way Democrats are expected to vote. You vote your party. So, for me to complain about you Republicans voting for Trump, that's what you're supposed to do. So, yes, for all my Republican friends out there, I'm going to say that right here on my show. I apologize if I pointed out to Republicans that you guys did something wrong. No, you didn't do anything wrong. You did exactly what you're supposed to do. Wish you had a thought about who you was voting for before you did it, but that is your job, because not your job, but that is what if you're a Republican, you're not gonna I don't care what you do, you're not voting for a Democrat. It just is not gonna work. You either don't vote or you don't vote for a Democrat, you know. But that's how political parties work. What really changed my thinking was realizing that elections often come down to voters who are not strongly tied to either party. Okay. Sometimes people vote based on emotions, frustration, or promises without really thinking about the long term consequences. Okay. When that happens, the entire country ends up living with those decisions. I believe accountability matters. And sometimes the first step towards moving forward is simply admitting that a decision might not have been the right one. Forgiveness and progress always starts with honesty. It's nothing wrong to saying that, you know what, we voted for him, but, man, I wish we hadn't, because that was just, you know, but, because I've heard people say this, but they say the alternative. What alternative? They sold you a bill of crap. They told you that if you vote for Kamala, we're going to go to war. That's exactly what they said, and I can put some of that. I can show you that. I got news feed. I can show you that. I like to pull up that. They said the economy's going to go to crap. Gas prices going to go sky high, and we're going to wind up in a war if you vote for Kamala. Everything they said that was going to happen with her is happening right now under them. So they sold you a bill of goods, which is sad, because they bought it. They bought it because they made themselves stand up. Marjorie Taylor Greene said it the best. They lied. They changed. Because they went on and they sold you guys and told you guys no more wars. No more wars overseas. None. And I said this on Facebook. That part of MAGA I can actually say I agree with. These endless wars and getting our children killed overseas, other people's kids killed overseas, is just sickening. And I seen these 14 caskets come home draped in American flags, and it breaks my heart. They show the pictures of these kids on TV that died in the war that did not have to happen. I said this once. I said, this once on Facebook, because if you guys follow me on Facebook, I said, you know what? If they said, even if this war was going to happen in 5 years, great. Don't start the war for 5 years, because these kids or people who died today would not probably die. All those 163 kids, Iranian kids, would have probably graduated out of that school and been off doing something else. Maybe your technology would have been a lot better, and you wouldn't have been blowing up a school of 163 kids. And then you guys want to blow this off like, oh, they're all Iranians. Who cares? They're Iranians. So, there's the cost of war. It's just sad, because it's you say stuff like that, and then you have the audacity, the mitigated gall to sit here and talk about abortions. you know those two don't mix. I'm sorry, folks. Those two do not mix. If you okay with the loss of these lives because it's just the cost of war, but yet you want to sit there and talk to me about abortions, you need to rethink your knowledge there, your thought pattern there. Hey, let's take a quick break here, folks, and I'll be right back with you in 2 and 2. Stick around. I hope you're enjoying the show. Grab you something to drink. I will. See you in a minute.
Hello, folks. My name is Jerry B from Pride and Glory Travel Cruise Planner, and I'm here to tell you about our Where to Next 2026 vacation calendar. Starting off with May 2nd on Freedom of the Seas, Royal Caribbean, going out for 5 days. Then we're doing our land and air vacation. You asked for it. Here we're going out to Vegas in 6 days over in Hawaii and just having a blast. And this kicks off on June 17th. Then another one you asked for, we head back out to Alaska again on July 26th on a beautiful ship, Celebrity Edge. Then in October, another trip you asked for. We heading over to Aruba and Carousel. This is going out October 17th on Allure of the Seas. And then our biggest trip of the year is on Allure of the Seas, November 29th, which is our hog biker cruise. You don't need to be a hog or biker to attend. Just come have some fun. We having our leather and lace karaoke party. We having a pool get together. And you got entertainment by me, Jerry B, and my younger brother, Timmy B, doing the show for you guys. So grab your pencil and paper, call Jerry at 920-265-8143, or Pam at 401-368-3275, or John 703-346-8352. And as always, see you at sea.
All right, folks, we're back here a little bit again. I want to touch base on a couple of different things here real quick before we move on to our next segment, though, because this is something that always gets my go-to, folks. And this is a talk show. That's what we're here. We're here to talk. I'm here to give you my opinion. It's not fact. It's my opinion. That's all it is my opinion. But I hear these people sitting up here talking about, and they've been saying that we are now that he is in office, and I'm not blasting Trump, okay? I'm blasting everybody out here because of your thought pattern here. We are producing more oil than we've ever produced before, more than any place else on the world, on the whole planet. We're producing more oil than anybody here in the United States. And that's always been my pet peeve and my question, because I've always said our president, none of them, I don't care whether Barack Obama, I don't care who it is, Trump, Bush, nobody, none of them control the oil market and our gas prices. They can't. They just cannot do it. It's either OPEC or all the other people that that controls the oil part, the oil market. It's a money game. It is a huge money game. People are getting rich off of this, and it's sad because it's like they said, we got this much oil, then why is our gas prices going up? Remember Trump shut down the reusable energy to do this with oil. Now we're at war. So that, my producer just reminded me of that. But think about that. Think about that logic, folks. If we are the most oil producing country in the world now, and because that's what everybody was bragging on, now we're producing all this oil and everything now, then our gas shouldn't move. Everybody else's gas should go up, but ours shouldn't. Our gas should go lower. Just because the Straits of Hormuz is closing down, what the heck does that got to do with us? We make our own oil. Why is our prices going up? Think about that logic, everybody. It just make your head want to explode. Think about that logic, because if we have that much oil here, if we got that much oil here, the oil prices will not go up. So I was listening to somebody who's more depth on this thing than me, and the guy was saying that these oil producers in the United States, they can produce more barrels, but they're not going to do such a thing. And the reason why they won't do such a thing, because if they produce too many barrels and this war ends, then they're going to be stuck with all these barrels of oil waiting to get rid of them. And they have no place to stock them and store them and all this other stuff. So thus, again, you're talking money, the money grab of Texaco and all these other rich oil companies, that if it draws down on us, that us sappy Americans have to pay this price. And it's still going up. But yet we are the biggest oil producing country in the world. We were selling oil to them, but our gas prices are going sky high. Now go figure that. And if you can come up with an answer for that, I just gave you an answer because there was a guy, an oil executive that was on TV, literally told me that. So that's actual, excuse me, I want to say fact coming from him. But that's what he said on TV, and I have no reason to doubt him because it makes sense. They're not going to produce the oil here in the United States because they don't want to be stuck with all these extra barrels of oil once all this goes to crap or goes back down or whatever, if that happens. So, thus, guess what? You got people saying, well, we'll release some of our reserve. No, you're not releasing your reserve because that never did anything. Obama tried that crap too. What did it drop the oil gas price down 5 cents? That never does anything. 20,000 barrels of oil, that doesn't, what the heck is that going to do? 20 million barrels? That is not going to put a dent into it when we're going through 400 million barrels of oil. So folks, you gotta wake up and not listen to all this nonsense out here. Let's move on to a little history lesson again, because I was telling you we're gonna talk about this. Because this has been getting my goat, and I've been following Iran and Israel for many, many years. This did not happen just because of Trump or Obama or Biden or anything. I love my movies from way back. I love my Christian movies from way back. So, and if you follow all these Christianity movies from way back, that's where Iran and Israel and all them places are from. That's where Jesus was born, is over in that area. So, I've always, because I watched those movies, I've always followed these countries over there, every one of them. So before we start talking about changing other countries, I think we need to understand the history of the places we're dealing with. Now, like I said before, Iran is one of the oldest civilizations in the world, folks. The oldest, with organized societies going back more than 2,500 years. Okay, get that? 2,500 years. America was born 10% of that 250 years ago. Okay. The modern Islamic Republic of Iran was formed in 1979 after the Iranian Revolution. Okay. That's when that was formed. Now, compared to the United States, which has existed for around 250 years, the modern state of Israel was established in 1948. The modern state of Israel was formed in 1948, not even 250 years ago. Okay. But the land itself has thousands of years of religious and cultural history tied to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Guess what? All three of them has been fighting each other from freaking 2,500 years. Conflicts in that region are not just political disagreements. They're tied to identity, history, and religion. I mean, that is huge over there. This has been going on for years. BC, you know what that means? Before Christ. That has been going on for years. I mean, this is nothing new. That's why it's incredibly difficult for outside countries to come in and try to reshape ideologies that have existed for centuries. How are we? Just okay, great. You want to sit there and tell we are the greatest country in the world. Yes, this is a great country for us. For us. It is a great country. But for other people, it is not that great. Because if you go over there, they're a great country because they've been living with that country for 2,500 years, folks. 2,500 years. How you expect to come over there after, and they look at us, wait a minute, you're like a newborn baby trying to tell me. Let's put this in a reality check. That's like your kids trying to tell you as an adult how you should act. You're gonna look at your kid and say, if you lost your mind, go sit down somewhere. I've been living on this earth a lot longer than you. How you gonna tell me how to act? That's what we're doing. You know, yes, United States, we don't, well, you know why we're a great country? Because this is a country we created. That's like if you create a product, you actually took the product and you created from your own hands and molded it to what you wanted it to be. You would say this is the greatest product there ever was because I made this. Well, that's what we are. We are a great country because we created this country. We built this country. We fought for what we wanted for this country. We bled for this country. We had a civil war for this country. You know, uh, but that's guess what is just that this country. It is a great country for us. It's not for everybody else. Now, if other countries want to sit there and come over and say, "Hey, look, can you share some of your information with us on how we can create our country to be closer to you guys?" Well, that's great. Yeah, sure. Here's some information. Here's what we did. Here's our Constitution. Look at it, read it, see if you can adapt it into yours. Great. We'd love to see you if you can do that with you. But who are we to sit there and tell other countries that you have to live like us? And we're the newest kid on the block. Remember that group, New Kid on the Block? Literally, we are the newest kid on the block. I took my kids and grandkids to Rome, Italy, and France a couple of years back ago on a trip, and I said, I want you guys to go because so me and my wife treated them. I said, I want you guys. This country was built before there was even a thought of the United States. I want you guys to see the real old country. I mean, the old country. I mean, they got to see the Colosseum and walk through the Colosseum back when they were doing the Roman days. This when the world was there was no United States. It wasn't even thought about. So anyway, conflicts in that region are not just political disagreements. They're tied to identity, history, and religion. That's why it's incredibly difficult for outside countries to come in and try to reshape ideologies that have existed for centuries. When you understand that history, you realize just how complicated these conflicts really, really are. It's tough. It is really, really tough. You know, I, you cannot go in and change people's mentality. The Persian Israel, allies, exile, and prophecies. Today, when people hear Persia, they think about modern day Iran. But in the Bible, Persia wasn't an enemy of Israel. It actually played a major role in restoring them. This history changed how we think about power, politics, and even prophecy. What is Persian in the Bible? Persia in the Bible? Persia refers to the ancient empire we now associate with modern day Iran. It became a dominant world power after defeating Babylon around 539 BC. I told you I'm going to give you a history lesson. The Persian Empire was known for its advanced system of governance, tolerance and cultures, and strategic leadership. Israel's exile sets the stage. Before Persia rise, Israel is conquered by Babylon around 586 BC. Jerusalem was destroyed, and many Israelites are taken into exile. This is one of the lowest points in Israel history: loss of land, temple, and identity. Persia's unexpected role: restoration, not destruction. When Persia defeats Babylon, everything changed for Israel. King Cyrus and great issues of decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem. He even supports rebuilding the temple. This is significant. A foreign king becomes a deliverer for God's people. Persia isn't betrayed as an enemy here. It's a tool for restoration. Okay, so this is a history here. You know, you just cannot change ideology because it's too big for everybody to just think about. Here's a final thought, folks. When we talk about war, politics, and history, things are always more complicated than they appear in headlines. That's why conversations like this matter. That's why it matters. We should always be asking questions and thinking critically about what our leaders are doing. That's being a true American. That's being a true patriot. The goal of Respect the Talk has always been simple: to have honest conversations about the issues that affect all of us, not just me, Not just blacks, not just whites, not just Jews, not just Israelis, not just Iranians, but all of us. Not just the old people or the young people, but all of us. I'm going to repeat that one more time, folks, out there in the Respect to Talk land. The goal of Respect to Talk has always been simple, to have honest conversations about the issues that affect all of us. And the more we understand history and take responsibility for our choices, the better the decision we can make moving forward. Like I said, we're just here to tell you what we feel is going on, and we just hope you rethink about what you're thinking, and stop following Fox News, CNN, CNBC, and all these other places. Just take some time to think. Please, please, please do me a favor. Stop following Facebook and thinking everything they say on Facebook is real. There's nothing wrong with following Facebook. There's nothing following TikTok. But don't think everything you read and see is real, because it's not. Do research. And guess what? If you don't believe that research some more. And if you don't believe that research some more. The answer is out there. There's no such thing as there's not an answer. There's only you don't want to find the answer. Because there's always, always, always an answer out there to any question. They always say the only problem is an unanswered problem. If you don't, or the only problem out there is an unanswered problem. If you don't ask the problem, figure out what your problem is, how can you fix the problem? If you don't ask what the issue is, how can you fix the issue? Ask, check it out, look around, see. Hey, look, even ask other people, get other people's opinion. Don't get so close-minded. Get other people's opinion, even from the other side of the aisle. Get somebody else's opinion. Hey, look, I was watching this the other day. Is that real or is that BS? Or talk to me. Let's talk. Let's go for coffee. Try to be friends again. Have simple conversations. It's sad because now it's gotten to this point in this crazy world of ours that families can't even have dinner anymore because you got two different sides of the aisle. Friends are breaking up because you're on two different sides of the aisle. You got your red corner, your blue corner. And when this is all said and done, we're all supposed to be Americans. And that's the sad point. We lost that. You got people running around touting flags and make them more patriotic than the next person. Saying that you're not a patriot, telling other people they're not patriots. They're not American. Sad. Folks, let's stop the nonsense. Let's come back together as Americans. Question your government. That is our job. That is our right. That is in the Constitution for you to question your government. And just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that they don't like you. That just means, hey, I disagree with what you're saying or what you're thinking. And maybe you could talk it out, but if you can't, hey, walk away. But do me a favor. Before I let you go here, do me a favor. Please stop saying we'll just agree to disagree. Because that goes nowhere. That's like me and my producer have an argument and talking over the phone, and we'd sit there and say, we'll just agree to disagree then. So now I'm holding animosity against him and he's holding animosity against me. We didn't work shit out. Neither one of us worked anything out. Nothing got resolved, nothing. We just hold animosity. And the more that animosity builds, the worse your friendships start deteriorating. Because now you're holding that animosity in. And it's going to be something else that's going to come about because you're going to be holding that in. Because guess what? You're going to say that stupid saying, whoever created it, we'll just agree to disagree. I'm sorry, folks. I'd rather talk things out. If you're my friend, I'd rather talk things out. I'd rather sit down and have some coffee with you. Let's hash it out. And if it's going to get loud, let's go sit in the car and let's scream at each other. And let's work it out. And in the end, hopefully we can walk away and still be the best of friends. But this agree to disagree crap, it's got to stop. I hate that saying. I hate it with a passion. Folks, do me a favor. Stop saying that. Hey, it is St. Patrick's Day. God bless you. Put your green on and get your Irish thing out. Hey, go have some corned beef and cabbage, you guys. God bless you. And until next weekend, take care. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Respect the Talk with Jerry B.